cover.
Good evening, this is Maestro Cortello with the Dawn of War 2 Retribution Elite Modcast. Today we have a 2v2 on Calderis Refinery. Our first player is Toilailee, as this Techmarine, that's what he is. Techmarine is a ranged hero, has a lot of guns for several different occasions, very powerful, can also build structures like turrets and relay beacons, and he can also repair vehicles. Toilailee's teammate is none other than Winkel, as this Grey Knight Bro Captain, a bit silvery or maybe even gray. The Grey Knight Bro Captain is a tanky melee hero, cannot be suppressed or knocked down, very powerful guy. Their opponents, first off, Dark Riku, or Dark Rikachu, as this Space Marine Apothecary, not a very good fighter, but he is good at healing. And finally we have HoLySHit, otherwise known as Holyhammer, playing as this Ravener Alpha, who is just getting shot in the back and does not even care. The Ravener Alpha is a tunneling hero, can fight pretty well in both melee and ranged, and his tunneling with the tunnels, kind of like free webway gates, except they can be destroyed very easily. Gives players a lot of mobility. Anyway, I see some fire in the background over here. Tactical Marines. Riku has already lost one of his tac models, so kind of a misplay by him, and he's already on the losing end of this engagement. He should not really be running his tacs all the way in here. The heal isn't going to be worth much because his tacs already lost a model. Meanwhile, Toilailee is definitely clearly winning this engagement, having all of his units over here. 2 scouts with 1 tac and the Techmarine. They're going to be putting out a ton of ranged DPS. And I think what happened was maybe Riku was counting on his tacs to tank the damage because they were in cover, and tacs in cover are going to tank a lot of damage. And he was just going to get his Apothecary over there and heal them. But it was just too much damage between a Techmarine, some scouts, 2 scouts, and a tac. That's a lot of ranged DPS. The Space Marine opening already has quite a bit of ranged DPS just because both of the starting units for Space Marines, the scouts and the tacs, are ranged units. So you're pretty much buying all ranged units. And then you also have this Techmarine right here, who also has a bolter to start out. So he's going to be adding like another 32, I believe it is 32 DPS with that bolter of his. So Toilailee won on his side, but over here Holyhammer won in his lane, trying to bash this one generator, but only with Termagants that have lost a few models, so certainly not the most powerful gen bashers, but it looks like at least this generator will go down. These incinerators on these purgation squads coming out, definitely going to roast some Termagants if they manage to get in range, although Holyhammer is microing away with those Termagants. Now, I don't exactly know how the Tyrannid versus Grey Knight matchup works out at all. Certainly I do know that Purgation squads with those Flamers, although they do not seem to suppress anymore, at least in this version, they certainly do some ridiculous area of effect damage that is absolutely going to murder those Termagants, as well as even the Hormagaunts, even though they have infantry fire resist armor. Looks like Dark Riku has pushed back out in his lane. He does have ASM, Assault Space Marines, Jumping, Disruption Infantry, which are equipped with chainswords. They fight in melee, but they are not as strong as dedicated melee units. There they do get knocked back by the Shotgun Scouts, and they are fighting against Toilailee's Assault Space Marines. So it's actually not that common to see Assault Space Marines with the Techmarine, or at least it's a lot less common to see Techmarine players get Assault Space Marines. This one Scout squad gets very close to dying. Will it wipe that Scout? And it does, in fact. So Toilailee already loses one of his Scout squads. Those Assault Space Marines from Dark Riku actually just running past all of Toilailee's units to get that squad wipe, and ultimately it was worth it in the end. So pretty good play by Dark Riku, especially after losing that original engagement. So the Bro Captain right here is engaging the entire Tyrannid army without support, so that certainly is not the best way to do things. And Bro Captain actually probably going to go down, so ooh, not a good play by Winkel. That Bro Captain was engaging the entire Tyrannid army. We saw him get hit by crippling poison from the Termagants twice. Now Winkel has a Rhino. Inside that Rhino, he does have a Purgation squad, and that's kind of his signature. That's his strategy, his main strategy with Grey Knights. It worked even better when Purgation squads actually suppressed. I don't know why they don't really suppress anymore. It's certainly, I mean, that Purgation squad is pretty annoying, but I mean, that's one of the things that works about Grey Knights, and I certainly feel like with that Grey Knight Purgation Squad not really working correctly. Grey Knights are hurting a little bit. But especially when Grey Knight Flamers, when those Purgation Squads suppressed, it would synergize very well with the Rhino, because they would get out of the Rhino, suppress any units that try to get in, and if any units actually made it into range, well, if any units actually made it into range of the Rhino, all of the units would jump back in the Rhino would basically drive backward, the Purgation Squad would jump back out, and then suppress any units that try to approach again. I don't know if what I just said made any sense whatsoever. Hopefully it does. Over here, the Techmarine is reviving that Bro Captain. Had a weird animation getting up, upgrading to the Nemesis Force Sword. I think it's very interesting to see Winkel getting that, but Winkel is one of the game's few dedicated Grey Knight players. He mains the Grey Knights. Not too many people do. Most people just play it additionally, like they kind of play it. But Winkel, as a dedicated Grey Knight player, I think we can see a little more interesting things out of him. Unfortunately, he lost a few too many Strike Squad models right there. And he's even going to lose his Bro Captain again, I think. No, he does not lose the Bro Captain. Holyhammer actually backed off with the Hormagaunts because he did not want his Hormagaunts to get wiped. But yeah, we see more interesting things out of Winkel because he actually plays Grey Knights, puts time into figuring out what is effective with them, or just thinks he can try. So he has the Nemesis Force Sword. The Nemesis Force Sword, as we can see by the tooltip, only does 33.33 DPS power melee, which is a lot lower than all of his other weapons. You can get it in Tier 1, and it improves his We Are the Hammer ability. I'm not actually sure how useful it is, but I mean, Winkel's getting it, he's using it, we'll see. These Assault Space Marines getting very low on health, might lose a model. They do in fact lose a model. We now have ranged Raveners from Holyhammer, so Raveners are a jump unit, or rather they burrow underground. So they don't really jump, they burrow. And they have been upgraded to have the Devourers. Gives them a ranged weapon, and a very powerful one at that. I still have the old tooltip. I don't know how much of that has been changed, but certainly those Raveners definitely going to be pretty powerful. Mainly in ranged, and then they do reasonably well in melee. Holyhammer is not happy about something. I don't know what. He still has all of his units, so he's still in pretty good shape. 2-Cap is now going to go back in favor of the blue team. Where has Toilailee been? Oh, Toilailee is actually... This is actually Toilailee's stuff. He's actually made a very hard lane switch all the way up here. He actually put down an Artificer Mine with his Techmarine, so that means he has the Artificer Armor. And that's an upgrade I don't see it very often. It takes a lot of time to put down those mines, and then they're pretty small, and of course if they get detected, they'll just get destroyed. This Techmarine, meanwhile, needs to get out of there. I think more often you see the Signum Armor, or especially now in Elite Mod, you'll see Bionics on the Techmarine. Right here, Toilailee does have an Assault Marine Sergeant on his Assault Space Marines, but so does Dark Riku. So it looks like Dark Riku jumped his Assault Space Marines out since Winkel was coming to support with his Bro Captain. Alright, this Rhino has been upgraded to have the Heavy Bolter turret, but it is getting a vehicle armor now, so it will not be taking damage from most of these units now. But now it's also very low on health. Some light AV from the Assault Space Marines, just with that Power Sword, and just with Assault Space Marines having a higher DPS than usual, will take out that Rhino, or a higher DPS than ranged squads, for example. And even basic melee damage will do more damage to vehicles than, say, piercing weapons. Wow, and a lot of losses. It looks like a lot of losses there from Riku. Actually only loses one model on his Assault Space Marines. Big engagement going down here. So many Grey Knight Flames. And something going down there. Is that going to be... That must be a drop pod, just to reinforce stuff. With these Assault Space Marines, the problem is that they got reinforced. Oh, and something's gonna get wiped. So wow, 2 squads got wiped. Hormagaunts and Termagants got wiped. Even these Raveners got pretty close to dying. 2 models, but only 40 HP, so a good engagement for the blue team. Winkel did lose his Rhino after fully investing in it, and he's getting a new one. So Winkel really likes those Rhinos. There was certainly, when I first had to deal with the Rhino, I kind of thought it was overpowered. I'm not so sure anymore. The main thing is, first of all, the Rhino just makes, in a lot of ways, this unprecedented. Certain things about it. First of all, before Grey Knights, and before Grey Knights having the Rhino, there was no race had a vehicle in Tier 1. Or not a vehicle. No race had a transport in Tier 1. And then before the Rhino, there was also no unit that had super heavy infantry armor in Tier 1. So most of the races are not really, at least they were not originally designed to have any kind of counter to super heavy infantry armor or a transport in Tier 1. And that does make the Rhino certainly interesting to deal with. You really need to innovate solutions, since certainly the developers never really planned anything for that. And then I guess the other thing about the Rhino is that it just happens to synergize with a pretty powerful Flamer unit. The Purgation Squad, or even the Strike Squad and the Interceptor Squad can get a Flamer, and you can use that to drive the Rhino up to a gen farm right after winning an engagement, and basically wipe out the entire gen farm before your opponent can even get back to you in time to actually take out, or to actually stop the gen bash. So some quick teching from Holyhammer, already in Tier 3, has the Doom of Malantai out. I don't know that much about the Doom of Malantai, other than that it is a super zone throw, and we can see that it is very big. One of the things I do know about the Doom of Malantai, it does not have the range of a regular zone throw, so it can't shoot from as much of a distance. The Psychic, I believe that is the Psychic Storm ability, slowly draining the health of those tactical Marines as well as all the other units that were inside. I do actually like the sound of that Rhino turret going off. Just that constant, just those constant, or not really constant, but the bullet intervals on those on that Rhino. And I guess one of the other things about the Rhino is basically that you're carrying a blob inside of your Rhino, and once they get out, they're just going to start doing a ton of damage. We have a Plasma Cannon Devastator from Toilailee. Some relatively small armies from most of these players. Most of them rushing to Tier 3, not spending too much time getting Tier 2 purchases. Toilailee is still in Tier 2. He can go to Tier 3, but he himself has a fairly lean army, and I'm guessing he's going to make a Tier 2 purchase, though. And then one of the other things that Winkel is doing with this Rhino is that he's using the smoke grenade to give all of his units that get outside, give them a damage resistance, basically. Toilailee is saying walk over the tunnel with, I don't know what that word is supposed to be, but basically the brother captain can just walk over the tunnels and destroy them instantly. Otherwise they do take much longer to destroy. This Stormtrooper squad goes down. I was going to say it might go down, and then those last 3 models all died instantly from the Doom of Malantai's Psychic Blast. Terminator's now out for Dark Riku. Elite Tier 3 infantry have Storm Bolters doing both a lot of range damage, and if they can get in melee with that Rhino, they will be able to damage the vehicle armor with those heavy melee power fists. So, a fully upgraded Ravener Alpha. Now again, Tyranids are my least favorite race by far, so I'm not terribly familiar with these war gears. We'll just go through them. Acid Splatter, Regenerate, and Damage Synapse. Some of those, I think their functionalities have even been changed in the Elite mod. That is, that they actually worked not just their stats have been adjusted, but I think the way they function has actually been significantly changed in the Elite mod as compared to retail. This Plasma Cannon Devastator nearly dead. Apothecary chasing after it, and one Chainsword sync kill on that Plasma Cannon Devastator with the Apothecary, so a fatality from the Apothecary. And now certainly quite a few things going down there. It's actually not looking good for the blue team, although Toilailee is dropping drop pods to reinforce his units that are in play. But a Psychic Storm also went off over there. Mostly a big red team blob, both Tyranids and Space Marines, massive range damage. I think this Rhino actually just barely getting out of there. And now an Assault Cannon Barrage from the Dreadnought. As much as this is a very powerful range blob, there's very little AV, or actually no AV, in this range blob. And Holyhammer actually got triple Ravener Broods. It's been a long time since I've seen something like that. That's basically in retail, there's a time when you could get Devourer Raveners in Tier 1. And that's back when there was a lot of Ravener heavy play. And that's kind of what this is. And they're doing a lot of range damage, but they do not really function as AV. So this Grey Knight Dreadnought is mostly unthreatened. And that's actually why the Rhino was actually able to get out of there. Basically only had to fear the missile shot from the Tactile Marines. And that triple disruption from the Raveners was not really a great choice. I mean, it disrupted his units, but doing them all at once was not really necessary, and then they just retreated after that. I think it's weird that, I mean, Holyhammer, at one point, he was definitely the best player in the game. Even at this point, he's still an extremely good player. So I'm really surprised to see in this replay and in another one I've seen before, basically just him do some things that it's basically like he's either he like doesn't even want to try hard. He doesn't even want to try hard enough to play well, and he's just doing some things that are actually kind of stupid. But now the Dreadnought is in a little bit of trouble. Las Cannon Devastator setting up. I think it will just. Oh no! Toilailee's didn't keep his Dreadnought going. We're gonna have, yes, a Melt-A-Bomb over there. This Tactile Marine squad is also following up, but I think that just might about save the Dreadnought. The only problem is he needs to get those Assault Space Marines off. He forced off the missile attack. The Assault Space Marines are still here, though. I think we actually have a Blessing of the Omnissiah from Toilailee, keeping that Dreadnought alive. Alright, now we do have... So, Winkel has actually managed to keep his Rhino alive, and now he also has this Land Raider Crusader. That Land Raider Crusader, in my opinion, it is the best Land Raider. It has those Hurricane Bolters. I don't know, I don't actually have any idea what the damage is, but I mean, the Land Raider Crusader is obviously the toughest Land Raider by quite a big margin. And then that suppression is another thing about it that makes it so tough to deal with. Alright, more of a Gen Bash going off from Holyhammer, certainly with triple Raveners. He will bash generators pretty quickly. Look at those generators going down. Certainly, that's pretty quickly for ranged counters. And the Rhino taking some light AV damage from this Acid Splatter, I think. But certainly not enough. And we have just massive vehicle plays. A second Dreadnought from Toilailee. I wonder if he'll keep that one melee, maybe put a multi-melta on it, or maybe just another assault cannon. And Termagant's going for a decap on the power. They get the decap off, but they wipe. So dead Termagants. Granted, that might not matter too much, although as good as those Termagants are in Tier 1, they're somewhat expendable, I think, especially with Tyranid Tier 3 working out in such a way that you can basically spam super units. I do consider the Carnifex a super unit, and you can get as many of them as you want. They're quite good. The Termagants can still certainly have some use in dealing with someone like this Grey Knight Bro Captain, still rocking that Nemesis Force Sword. So he's sticking with that sword, even though he could be doing much more damage with any of the Bro Captain's other weapons. double dreadnoughts. This one does, in fact, have the multi-melt. Assault Space Marines jump in. Now a Tyranno formation. Might take out this Rhino if Winkel is not paying attention. And it does, in fact, take out that Rhino. So that Rhino finally goes down. At this point, I think Winkel can afford not to get another Rhino. I know he likes it. And it certainly helps with mobility. But he's having trouble keeping it alive. And transports in general, at least, well, most of them, it's generally somewhat tough to keep them alive as the game progresses to Tier 3. A lot of crazy stuff going on over here. Ravener's getting suppressed up top. And if Winkel gets something like a Grey Knight Terminator squad or Paladins, that's probably going to do a lot more for him at this point than the Rhino. Techmarine has been upgraded to the Plasma Gun. When overcharged, that thing does more damage to heavy infantry and super heavy infantry than a fully upgraded Tzeentch Chaos Space Marine squad. So, pretty ridiculous damage. Chasing down these Terminators and may even take them out. The only thing is that Riku is setting up his... does set up his Devastator Marine squad, and I think it will take out that Dreadnought. That Dreadnought is probably going to go down. One more shot will take out that... Wow! The Dreadnought just barely getting out of there alive, but I don't know if it can survive from this Predator that can chase it down. A Psychic Storm actually going off in that area. I don't know if that's actually what it's called. I'm going to assume Dreadnought down to 10 health, being chased down by this Carnifex. Upgrades to the... Oh, never mind. I was going to say upgrades to the Venom Cannon, and that will finish it off. But instead, the Predator gets a kill steal, and the Carnifex gets nothing. All right, so we have one of the things that often happens in this map, where the fighting kind of comes down to the middle, and both teams will sort of park on opposite sides and wait for someone to make a move. And of course, whoever already has the VP is the team that can afford to just wait it out and wait for the other team to make a move. And it often seems like, oh, well, I mean, obviously, you can win that push. You can be aggressive, make that move, and you can win that push. It's happened before. Could happen in this game right now. Carnifex dangerously low on health, taking damage from, I don't even know what, but it was taking a lot of damage somehow. And a Melta from the Assault Space Marines goes off, and I think that will be a dead Carnifex. And wow, it goes down like it's practically going down to Stormbolter fire, or maybe these Purgations. Purgations now with side cannons. So that's the strike squad. Purgations now with side cannons will be doing damage to just all types of targets. Predator now from Dark Riku. Dark Riku likes Predators. Particularly with the Apothecary. There was a time when he said, like, with the Apothecary, use Angels of Death, use Lariman's Blessing. If you don't have red in Tier 3, buy a Predator or a Land Raider, instead of just trying to get Terminators. That being said, Angels of Death is not as good in the Elite mod as it was in Retail. That was a comment from him that was definitely way back in Retail, when Angels of Death actually granted invincibility. Right here, the Ravener Alpha is fighting these Grey Knight Terminators. He cannot win against them. He will get out of there alive, but certainly that was a close call. Grey Knight Terminators with these Force Halberds going to be doing crazy power melee damage. Will be doing splash as well. And Holyhammer, unfortunately, really does not have a great counter to these Grey Knight Terminators. He does have 3 Ravener Broods, which will do some pretty ridiculous damage overall, but they do piercing damage. The Grey Knight Terminators have super heavy infantry armor, so they will have a 70% damage resistance. That means 70% of the damage from these Raveners will be mitigated by the super heavy infantry armor of the Grey Knight Terminators. The Grey Knight Terminators can actually just afford to just press forward, walk in, take pretty minimal damage, and if they actually do get close to dying, they can just teleport out of there. So they attack some of those Raveners. No model losses from the Terminators. One does go down there from the range fire, actually, of the Land Raider Crusader. Over here, that Predator getting hit by the las cannon does manage to get out of range. Toilailee does lose his Melt-A-Dread. Now, Melt-A-Dread is obviously, it will be an AV choice, will do damage to vehicles, and it will also do damage to every other kind of target as well. But usually it still has trouble as AV because we're talking about an AV weapon on a slow-moving unit that is itself a vehicle and will lose to many other vehicles. Certainly a Predator it will lose to, simply because the Predator can kite it. This Predator is getting extra armor. I feel like that Predator could use the las cannon, certainly still with a Dreadnought as well as a Land Raider Crusader to deal with. That Predator will be doing almost double damage if it gets a las cannon. Ravner Alpha just might go down here, taking a lot of fire, but does not. So it's now a 1-to-1 cap, but Winkel is getting this VP right here, and the blue team is in the lead with 198 victory points. Red team only with 43. They do need to make some kind of move. I think they pretty much need to make a move on this middle victory point right now. I'm not sure how they can do that without losing a unit, but they don't have a choice. It's do or die time. And it looks like actually what Riku is doing is that he simply just sends the Terminators in, basically relying on the fact that they can tank a lot of damage as well as being immune to knockback to just get the decap off on that point. They were going to get hit by an orbital, but Riku smartly teleports them out of there before they get hit by anything. But then Winkel is sort of counteracting with a similar strategy, using a unit that cannot be knocked down and is also quite tanky to just capture the point. Riku loses his Predator. Angels of Death finally from Dark Riku, but the cap from Winkel's Bro Captain just barely goes in. Bro Captain actually goes down right after, but not quick enough by Holyhammer, and Holyhammer easily going to lose that Ravner Alpha in the process. Even the Techmarine might go down here. Not that that really matters that much, but still just heroes dying left and right. Riku's Apothecary is the only one alive. Just kidding, he died right there. And we need some kind of immediate cap, but the blue team is actually getting red team's natural over here, so that looks like it's going to be the game for Winkel and Toilailee. Tyranno formation even goes down, but that is the game. Hope you enjoyed the cast. Have a good night.